Okay, we'll go ahead and call the special called Finance Committee meeting budget hearings to order. Sorry, we're a few minutes late. If you'll call roll, Ms. Salter.
Yes, sir. Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Thames? Mr. Higginbotham?
Here.
Ms. Smith? Here. And Mr. Harden?
Mr. Thames is online.
Okay, is Thames in the vote online?
Are you going to vote online, Mr. Thames?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So you just have now one absent, so you have a quorum.
All right. We have a quorum, so we can move forward. Did we want to go ahead and approve the minutes distributed on September 10th? Dispense with a reading and approve those as distributed? Or do you need to read through those? That's what we...
Those are the minutes from the 10th, not from the ones that we just presented.
That's correct. That's correct.
I would move to dispense with the reading of the September 10th minutes and approve those as presented.
Okay. Mr. Higginbotham, did you have a chance to read over the minutes we got last time? Okay. Moved by Mrs. Smith, seconded by Mr. Higginbotham. That's probably going to be a normal motion tonight.
Mr. Thames is there. He said he was
Oh, that's
voting.
right. Mr. Thames, you're online, so you can call second as well. Okay, moved by Mrs. Smith, second by Mr. Higginbotham to dispense with the reading and approve the minutes from September 10th. That is the right date. Yes, okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed by the same sign. That's 4-0. Did you yell out, Mr. Thames, if you're voting against something? So, okay, good.
Aye.
Perfect. All right, 4-0. Yeah, Mr. White is in the middle of nowhere, Alabama, and he will not be here. And Mr. Gwaltney called, and he is helping his parents with a tree that has fallen on their house down in South Alabama. So he's dealing with that. And he said his dad is 84, and he wants to make sure his dad doesn't get up on the roof and start using the chainsaw. So we have a lot going on. Okay, so let's recap where we are. We have gone over.
Dr. Jones, are y'all carrying over the 15th minutes? Since I did come out so late?
Honestly, since you just handed them to me, I know you said there were changes, I have that change.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
it's fine. I just don't want to get behind on. We can carry those over since Tuesday.
Yeah, we're gonna carry those over. And
Mr. Higginbotham found one thing already on the, so if y'all see on the diamond interchange, I put 1.4, and then I put from 2.4, and it's supposed to be 2.8. So I'm gonna change that, but anyway, if y'all see anything else, let me know.
Okay. Okay. So where we are is we have gone over general fund, which took a long time, longer than we had anticipated. And we're now into capital. And so the majority of our time that we've been spending on capital has been with our projects, which is a very important thing to go through because we have some, and there are some additional questions that we're waiting on. We seem to always wait on ALDOT to confirm different things as it relates to projects, and we have to wait on consultants sometimes to give us projections, so we're doing the best we can, but we did get through those. I do want to say that we can revisit some of these if we need to next week. Tuesday and Thursday, we have budget hearings, and we can carry those a little bit longer than an hour because we got to go over other funds, and we've got to the biggest thing we're going to have to do is go through the wages and employee matters as it relates to the budget. So we can come back to that. So where we got, Mr. Burgett, were there any outstanding questions that we had?
I'm sorry, I had one. We had talked about the revenue projection, the tax projection of 2.147.260
On
million.
page 1, yeah.
Yeah. And we had put a question mark that, I can't remember, it had something to do with what Mr. Harden said, I think, about the projection for the tax revenue. And we said we'd come back to it, but we weren't, I don't know. I didn't put anything other than a question mark, so I don't really know what the question was.
I think we flushed it out in terms of how we came to that.
Projection?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Mr. Burgett, you can comment further and let the record reflect Mr. Harden is in the chamber. He's in the house. And so do you want to reiterate that, what you had said?
Well, the way that I derived that number was I did the first quarter of the year, the first 3 months, with the lower projection numbers that we have been receiving after the April revenue started coming in.
Right.
And then I took the last 9 months of the year and used our standard scenario projection.
Okay.
Averages, percentage growth, et cetera, and came up with that number.
And you feel comfortable with that as the projection?
I do feel real
Okay.
comfortable with it, as long as the economy comes back hard in January.
And so you're not a future predictor then? You can't tell us for sure if that's going to happen?
He's cautiously optimistic, that's what we're
Yeah,
saying.
Nice.
The additional comment that we did make, which we did not have this information when this was being done.
Yeah.
But our revenue the last 2 months has come back very strong. in
Okay.
sales tax.
Okay.
It's more of a V shape.
Right, it like went way down and now it's coming right back up. Okay, good. All right, because I just had that question mark next to that, so I was like, I don't know what that was truly about, but,
Yeah.
okay.
Good
Thank you.
question. And on page 3, I know we need to wait on the turkey foot question.
Yes.
So we'll be coming back to that to determine what we could accomplish potentially in right-of-way acquisition. We did confirm from AlDOT, it is an 80-20 match
Right.
for the right-of-way acquisition. So we've got to decide, what that number conceivably we could accomplish in a 12-month period. So I think we need to rely on internal discussions as well as speaking with AlDOT.
Is that on the acquisition person that we're hiring? Is that, they're going to pay 80% of that when we thought they weren't maybe going to pay any?
No, just in the AlDOT contract, we have an 80-20 match on the, any
Right-of-way.
expenditure for right-of-way
But
acquisition.
What they said, what we believed was the person doing the work, which we thought was $100,000, that we had different conflicting answers as to whether they were going to pay 80% of that person or not.
I don't think they will. Because I think we established that for 18th Street, which their guy is also doing the 18th Street right away,
Right.
I think we're paying that person. I think. Is that right?
Keith Strickland told me that it's an 80-20 match.
Okay, so for that as well. Okay.
It's
good.
an 80-20 for anything
Everything related to it.
right-of-way
Okay,
acquisition.
perfect.
Yeah,
Right.
Awesome.
and so we can get confirmation, and then we do need to do a little bit of work, and that's why I'm so happy that we have another, 2
Week.
weeks to work through this. So I feel like we can get to a number by next week on all of that, so that will help immensely. Okay, and then there were a couple of other items that we dealt with. We did go through most of the police capital project. That we got the good news on the body cameras, that we lowered that down to 85,000. Were there any other questions from the committee on the police capital?
And that was the last page of theirs,
Yeah, that was
right?
just, page 7.
Yeah.
And we have about 4 or 5 pages of notes.
The notes
Right,
were-
yeah, the notes
So,
are
yeah,
a
so
lot.
there's like all kinds of notes on there that go to page 12.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any other questions. Were there any other questions on any of that?
They told us about their vehicles.
Yeah, what I had written down was that they were looking at 3 Tahoes and 2 detective unmarked.
Hey,
It's 8 total.
8 total.
Yeah,
Isn't that
I
correct?
I added up, it's 45,000 a vehicle.
so there's 5 unmarked for the detectives, and there's 3 Tahoes.
Oh, I believe that's correct, yeah. Oh, that's right. The 2, okay, I'm sorry, yeah, the 2 is minus. Okay, so 3 and 5, right? Okay, yeah, 3 and, yeah, I should have looked at what I circled there. 3 and 5. Okay. So any other questions? Okay. Let's move on to the fire department. And I have something, we're going to have show and tell today. And as I was cleaning out some stuff in my office, I found this lovely book. Homewood Fire Department Mobile Equipment Strategic Plan. I met with Chief Bresnan, and he said, what would help you as finance chair? And I said, I would like to see an overview of your capital purchases for the next 20 years. And he said, I would be happy to do that. He said, anything else? I said, I would like pictures. And so I'm going to give you this, Chief Hill. It has a picture of every piece of equipment that he's requested all the way to 2027.
We've actually updated that, so we've gone to 2040, so we actually have one.
So this was a 20-year plan, and I have told this story so many times to other department heads that this would be helpful, because I love pictures to see, okay, here's what we have in our fleet, here's what we need to plan for. So I'm going to give this to you.
I appreciate it.
Unless you have
You
it.
take it now, or you may get it later?
You
You take it now, or you may get it later?
You can have it. And so I just want to make sure that we're on track, and maybe, having a new chief, you might have some additions, subtractions, but I thought it was a great way to look at capital, so that we know here's what to expect next year. I mean,
Right.
Really, all kidding aside, it was really appreciative. I was very appreciative of getting that, so.
I think Chief Ross is now behind.
I don't know, he gave up $115,000. I don't know that I can do that, so I'm glad y'all had a few days to think about that.
Oh, okay. Anyway.
Now, you do need to know that Walter, after getting so spoiled by that, his ambitions have gotten higher and higher. So the next group he gets, he wants not only capital pictures for all the equipment, but pictures of the people who'll be operating it as well for the next 27 years.
That's right. We want little motorcycles, that kind of stuff. So, okay, anyway. So looking at the capital projects fund, the fire department, Chief, you did a lot of cutting from
We did a lot of cutting.
the initial request. So you're coming down, you're going to spend almost everything that you have budgeted this year for capital, correct? I mean, you're almost there at the end of June. And then your requested budget, you can see the total is 476. So it is, lower than the 18-19 actual, but it's much lower than what last year was budgeted.
Right.
So are there any questions on page 12? That's really the only page for the fire department. So anything you want to share about some of the items on here?
Well, so what we did was we went through all the items that had to be repaired. So we have a roof that needs repaired. We have a fence at Station 2 that needs to be repaired. The driveway at Station 3 is the most expensive thing, and it has to be repaired because that's where the new fire truck is going. It's a $100,000 fire truck. We can't not repair the driveway because it's going to break and tear up the new fire truck. But everything that was new or additional, we cut it out. So we do have some money to replace the furniture. We sit in it a lot, and we use it a lot for training. So the chairs are going to need replacing. So we left $20,000 in for furniture, but that's really the only thing new. And we have some money for stoves and appliances and that sort of thing. If it was new and a major infrastructure project, we just put it off.
So no vehicles this year?
No vehicles this year.
Okay. And that's that 121 that you were talking about, the building improvements, that's the floor.
Right.
Concrete.
It was a combination of things. We cut out some supplies, some nice-to-have items that we were going to put in reserve. So if one breaks, we'll have an extra. So we cut that out. So now if one breaks, we just have to have it repaired. We won't have an extra to go pick up and put on the truck. But
How about the vehicle that we were having to have repaired, the one that the engine went out? How did that happen? How did that come out?
It came out well. We actually saved $15,000 over what the worst-case scenario was. But when it came back, we had some valves that were leaking. We went to do a pump test, which is how we do to accept it, make sure it's still working order. If we had a fire, we could still operate it. And it sprang a few leaks, so it's up at the shop. But it actually had nothing to do with the motor, so I don't know if it was when they took the motor out, they moved some things around, but it had nothing to do with the actual motor. So it's still at the shop, but it's here if we need it.
It's running now.
It's running, right, it's running, it's back. And then we've stripped all the equipment off the 98 that can't be repaired. And we actually have some pretty good leads on selling it, so we may actually come out a little bit ahead of what I thought we would if we sell that.
Can I ask a question, Mr.
Yeah,
Jones?
sure.
In my world, you sometimes would take, you've got several, I'll use the word properties for the fire department, where you got different stations, and a lot of times you'll project out over a 10, 25-year period, hey, in 2028, I'm going to need a new air conditioning. In other words, I want to budget for certain physical plant things within my each one. Have y'all ever done anything like that, where you budget for or
We do.
anticipate?
We have a 5-year, a 3-year, a 5-year, and a 10-year plan, and it encompasses all that. How long, we put up metal roofs on most of them where we could.
Yeah.
Station 2 is obviously
Which is
not.
good.
Station 1 has a rubberized roof, which we still have a leak we can't find. It's not that
Yeah.
we're not trying to repair it, we just can't find it. So we do that.
Okay.
So we do anticipate those things. We
So
know
so
they
that
wear
we
out.
know,
What we're trying to do with Station 2, though, is we're not trying to, we're kind of on that fence. Are we going to build a new station, or are we going to keep putting lipstick on a pig? What are we going to do? If we don't move soon, we're going to have to put a new roof on Station 2, because it's leaking. Now, we've got it stopped for now, but that's certainly something.
Were you jealous on Tuesday?
No. No, I was not jealous on Tuesday.
But it would be nice, though, to maybe get something replaced in the future.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, new
so
station is
Station
good.
2 is the one on Carr Avenue, right?
Right.
And we bought that property, and so we're thinking we're going to, I know the mayor was talking about putting a new station over there just a block away. And we
Right.
don't have anything budgeted for that yet.
Nothing's budgeted right now, but it's certainly noted as to kind of all the problems you're having.
Right,
with
well,
the roof, you got the roof.
I pretty much spent most of my career there, so I love Station 2, but we got to figure out which way to go. We just need direction.
That's right.
Whatever y'all decide is fine. As far as the police building, I'm glad they got a new building. The other one was in bad shape, and, it served its purpose, but they had outgrown it, so I think they did a good job, and it looks great.
Fabulous job.
So,
Okay.
That's a good
As
idea.
part of the city's fiscal policy, all the departments, they give a 3-year plan, current year and 2 years out.
Okay.
Back of the budget book, it gives 2021, 22 projected capital purchases along with the revenue projection. So it's a good idea, like, for example.
And that's
he's
behind
already
tab
told
number
us-
19, is what he's
and
talking
he's already told
about.
us that next year he needs a fire truck and a vehicle as his, large expense of $758,000. And he's even goes out to 2022 and gives us projections.
Okay,
They do a
okay.
good job of planning. Will we?
Yeah, I mean, it just helps us as we look forward.
sure.
We're going to
And that's
delay
what-
this year, and gee, but next year you're going to need new HVAC units somewhere.
Right.
That kind of game.
And that's why they put in the fiscal policy when they wrote it, to get us to ask the departments to have the current year budget, the new year budget they're asking for, and then 2 years beyond
Yeah.
that. It gives you 3
Yeah.
years of capital, so we know what's coming.
And we wish we could provide everything that you request. And I know, Berkeley, you wanted 2 garbage trucks. We just couldn't do that this year. But, I mean, we appreciate you being patient with us as we look down the road at
Well,
different things.
We understand, but the biggest thing we have is human capital, we need to take care of that, so we just, we don't want to.
Yeah.
We
I
can do
love
without, we
your
can do without a
attitude.
new building, and we can do without,
I really appreciate that.
so, we can
Okay.
do what we have to.
Okay, I just had one question. Tell me what Crew Force software, what does that do? Does that help you manage?
All right, so that is our portion of the CAD upgrade, so it goes to the connectivity to the fire trucks.
Okay, Okay, so just communication.
Right.
To and from the fire truck.
Right. If you want an in-depth explanation, I'll have to get Brandon up here, because that's a 911 thing, really. If you want an in-depth explanation, but that's the short answer.
Okay. Okay.
And so you're getting new computers that shows at 52,000. Is that for all the stations?
It's for the fire trucks.
Oh,
Goes in
that's also
apparatus.
for the trucks, okay.
So,
Because there's, okay.
yeah, that's really a nerd question.
So we need to bring Brandon
We
up
need
for
to move
that.
Brandon, yes.
Okay.
All right.
We can get a quick nerd answer then, if that's
Actually,
okay.
real down and dirty. So Crew Force is our software that connects us to the dispatch center. It allows every one of the calls that we go on to come over into our trucks, and then for our trucks to be able to communicate back. We currently use a program called Active 911. It only has one-way communication. This will allow our trucks to actually talk back to dispatch and for dispatch to see where they are at all times. On the computers, we're doing 2 projects, one of which should be COVID money reimbursable. That is EPCR program. Currently, we do paper PCRs for patient care. We budgeted for that this year. It's still left. We left $29,000 in capital because when we got cut off, we just kind of stopped spending. Well, with a paper PCR, we get several different records because we have to come back. The state requires us to put it in a computer. If we go to computers on the trucks with that system, we have one copy of the record, and we can actually disinfect a computer. With the paper, once it goes out, you can't disinfect it at all. So our plan is to apply for that to be reimbursed through the COVID money that we have available. Okay.
And are you referring to the 1.1 million that we're going to be, okay.
That we have to spend.
Okay. So, Mr. Burgett, we're keeping track of all of capital expenses as well for COVID?
Yes, we are.
Okay, okay.
The general fund expenses, as I asked Wanda to run a number for me last week, they were at $35,000, 35, like 690, I believe. So they're not, we're not, we need to really work to get to that 1.1 million.
Well, I want us to,
We spent a
we
bunch.
don't want to leave money on the,
We'll find a
Well,
way.
it was-
Yeah,
So Brandon, the 5,000 for Crew Force and the 52,000 are all really part of the same,
So Crew Force is 11,000. 5,000 is
Okay, I'm
the software's as needed. That is, anytime we buy a new computer, in order for the city network, we have to buy an exchange license.
that's a server, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that a server?
It is a license to attach to the
Okay,
server.
got it, okay.
That's what comes out of that 5,000. The 11,000 and the 52, 2 different projects. EPCR is not the same as Crew Force.
Okay.
So 30,000 of that 52 is for the EPCR project. That is where we do the
It's
patient care
reimbursable.
records. It should be reimbursable. Now, we'll try to get the whole 52. There are some departments that have bought MDT computers, which are Crew Force, with that money, but I'm waiting on Jefferson County's purchasing agent to give me a, hey, we support this for that money.
okay?
Got it, okay, okay. Any other questions?
Right.
Okay. Well, we'll be hearing that at the mid-year review, kind of some, talk about capital and 3-year plans and things like that. But thank you, Chief, for all you do.
Yes, sir.
And appreciate you letting me share that book with you.
Well, like I say, we have you one all the way up to 2040. So we'll
Good
be doing
deal,
that soon.
good deal. Okay, thank you, Chief. Okay. Moving on, court management. That should be an easy one on page 14. Does not have any request at all. So, yeah, those are restricted, yeah. Okay, page 15, sanitation department. Is this two garbage trucks?
It is one, he requested 2, and he reduced it to 1.
Okay, so,
You said change it to description, but if you see the extension out, it says 1 at 183.
thank you, Mr. Squires, for,
We're down, actually, with getting this one, that'll just leave us one more. I've got a 94 model and a 97 model of the old International that are still there. So after getting this one, that'll just leave us those 2. So after that, we should be,
Okay.
our first ones, if you remember, go back, we started that program in 2013. And so we've been trying to replace the 11 garbage trucks since then. So, you know, we've done a few years, we've gotten 2, some we got 1. Last year we didn't do any, and all. So that'll take 1. We've got 1 that's at the shop that it's a 97 model that we've already put. This will be the 4th engine that we replace it, and it's not worth doing that. So, you know, but this one will get us back to where we need to be, and that'll still leave us we have 2007 model, 94 model, 97 are the 3 reserves that we run when the other ones go down. So they're in decently shape, so, you know, we can get by with them. So
How many do we run per day?
we run usually about 10 per day. We run 4 garbage and usually anywhere from 5 to 6 for trash and debris and stuff. So we're normally running anywhere from 9 to 10, sometimes depending on, now Wednesdays, we'll put all of them, but probably the 94 model will go because we'll run alleys. So we'll run all of them at that point in time. You know. No, we run 4 clamshells. We run them 4. We run them 5 days a week. Yeah, they're constant. They take, to be honest with you, they take as big a beating as the garbage trucks do.
Sure.
So those stay on it. So
Now, I know we talk a lot about education with recycling, and hopefully that's helped with our tonnage fees and
Oh, yeah.
what we pick up. Is there anything else that we need to better communicate with constituents so that it can make your job easier, we can be more efficient with pickup, anything that would?
the garbage and trash is, basically everybody does. The biggest issues we run into is people putting grass and leaves in the gutters. And then it rains and they run and fill up the storm drains. That's the biggest, you know, people would just put them on the side or bag them. Behold, that's our biggest thing that we have issues with and all.
And I think it makes it,
Yeah.
everybody's waiting for the trucks to come. They don't come very often.
Yeah.
And the streets look terrible.
And all.
And I really wish we would say, we're not doing that, just bag your leaves.
Well, you know, the city ordinance states that you're to bag them. That's what the ordinance states and all. So, but, you know, it's what people don't understand is there's 5 vacuums and you have to have 3 people per truck.
To do the vacuums,
to run them, because you got to have a raker, you got to have a guy on the suction side, and then the driver. And so, you know, the problem is you get wet. I mean, we've got 3 machines that will not suction when they're wet. I mean, they just won't do it. So, I mean, usually it'll take us down to 2 machines, and then, you know, whether people realize or not, they'll put sticks and stuff up underneath the limbs or something up underneath there, and one of them goes in, and then you hit a propeller blade, and then it's down. So that's the biggest thing we run into. And all the
We
garbage
can
and
maybe
trash
try to
side-
communicate that through the
Yeah,
website.
The garbage and trash side, no, I mean, everybody pretty much knows the routine, and they take it and go with it. So and all. But I mean, you know, the last probably 3 years, I mean, our tonnage has gone up. You know, used to, I know, like in West Homewood, we could run 2 routes and and we'd be done. And now we dump each time we pick up over there. So
Wow.
you know, it's a big difference than what it used to be anyway.
Where-
But yeah, we did the one on the sanitation just to bring it down, work on
All right.
keeping numbers down.
Okay, thank you for that.
Berkeley, where is the dump now? It's not in Shannon anymore, right?
The limb debris is over there, but the actual thing's out in Graysville. The
That's a long-
landfill is.
The landfill's in Graysville.
Yeah.
That's a long way.
Yeah, that's that building that you pay.
Yeah,
for the debt.
yeah.
Yeah, it's big.
Adamsville, Graysville it's the
All
authority
right.
out there that does it.
Okay, any questions? Moving on to street department. Caterpillar backhoe.
Yeah, the current backhoe we have, and I spoke with Gordon about this, it's a 98 model, and we're beginning to run into issues. It's got to be repinned eventually, and all that's about a $10,000 deal. But you know, we lost it. It went down for about 3 weeks, and we had a couple of places we ended up having to rent one, and all. But having a new one's, that one's just gotten to a point. I mean, it's got a lot of wear and tear on it, and so I had that in there and all for this year was to replace that one, because it's, the hours on it's getting up to about, I think, 120-something thousand hours on it. So, because it's been the single one we've had since '98.
Wow.
You know, so we'll be able to repin the old one and use it as a backup, and then hopefully with the new one. And usually those things last you 20 to 22, 24 years. I mean,
Wow.
you can get a good lifespan out of those.
Okay.
You know.
So you really need to replace a 94 truck?
Yeah, I've got one pickup that Gordon said he's not fixing anymore, so, you know.
Okay.
So that's the one pickup.
We'll be
truck.
doing some surplus property ordinances coming
Yeah,
soon
I've
with
got
these.
several that he's got up there, and I think that.
Okay, and then you cut one of those?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Berkeley here? All right.
I think Matt Collins needs a truck instead of a Cadillac.
Oh, no, that's his personal choice.
I was gonna
there.
say, you're gonna talk to Matt about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Street? All right. Thank you.
All right.
You want to represent library while
No,
you're up there?
I'm gonna let Deborah do that.
Ms. Fout wouldn't like that. Okay, page 17. And we actually have a couple of changes here. And it's actually going to end up with a savings,
Like $4,500.
$4,500. So can you, Ms. Salter, can you recap what we need to change? So we need to change the capital. Oh, yeah, well, I'm looking at it. Okay, I can go through it. I can go through it.
It was,
Okay, so
one thing,
the building,
couple of things, and then none of this.
okay,
I should have a copy.
okay. Take that, and let's put it in the minutes let's go line by line as to what needs to change.
Building improvements capital, what you have in the mayor's budget, it didn't get changed. That line item did not get changed.
So that's a little bit more.
Instead of 336,000, the total for building improvements capital needs to be 354,140.
Okay, so let's
And
take
that-
all these at one time.
Yes, and in the detail of it, it's still got the repaved parking lot for 180, and that is a carry forward from this year. That was money in this year's budget that was
Correct.
not able to be done. And it's 156,000 for the ADA compliance on the parking lot. And then these two new items are in there that didn't get put in there is redo the room downstairs for $7,800 and upgrade the security camera for $10,340. And the sum of those four items is $354,140 instead of the $336. But then I'll just go through the numbers and then Debbie can talk on it. The equipment, office and computers, the $589,370, instead of being $26,500, it just needs to be $4,175 for phones. So her total request at the bottom is $358,315.
358,315.
315. Uh-huh.
Okay, so it's lowering it,
About $4,000.
almost 4,000, yeah. And if you're visual, you can look at what she just went over. But yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah, I missed a couple of the numbers. I couldn't write fast enough. So the downstairs room, okay, thanks.
Yeah, somehow this budget did not translate over to our budget. So it's not a big deal, except it's a little bit lower. So we just need to modify. And are you good with the numbers that Ms. Salter went over?
Yeah, I talked to her.
So so instead of 336, it's 354,140. And then we've added two items under there. And then the equipment office, instead of 26,500, is 4,175?
Yeah.
That's 4,175. Yeah, I'm sorry, and I made a mistake, I should have. So that's kind of where we are.
So all the rest of the stuff under the 26.5, that all goes away.
That all goes away. We actually copied the current budget as a starting point, and that was in this year's budget. It didn't get changed.
No, I'm not
over.
following you.
Where am I missing? The original budget was the addition of the 88 compliance.
Mr. Thames, are you completely lost, or do you need me to go over that?
And so I still not emailing a corrected page.
Okay, we'll send you a corrected page, but we need a motion to,
So moved.
to make these changes. Okay, it's moved by Mr. Higginbotham. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Oh, yes, I'll second that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Oh, I understand. Yeah, and we'll get a corrected page. Okay, it's moved by Mr. Higginbotham, seconded by Mrs. Smith, and to recap, so we'll get a corrected page. The 19-589150 total is $354,140, and then the next item, 19-589370 is $4,175, making the total $358,315. Okay, that's the motion. It's been seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed by the same sign. That's 4-0.
I think it's 5 and 10, so you know.
Oh, that's right. 5-0 on that. 5-0. Okay. Could you give us an update on reopening, and when are we going to have a dedication to for the new part, or kind of?
Well,
where
what
are
we're
we?
going to do, we're working on moving, this week, we're moving the computer lab up and putting the furniture and doing the punch list stuff and that kind of stuff. We hadn't got their certificate of occupancy yet, but we should have it soon. And so the runoff election is on October the 6th, which we're closed to the public because we can't have so many people, coming in the library. Of course, they'll be voting down there. And we'll be there working, but on the 7th, we're going to have a soft opening and start opening for, like Mountain Brook's doing, for 4 hours a day. Birmingham Public is completely closed, and we're expecting a lot of, people from that area coming over. We're going to have to limit numbers coming in the building so we can social distance. We've moved all the seating, most of the seating in the meeting rooms downstairs and out of the way, so it doesn't encourage people to, they come in there and stay all day, some of them do, so we're going to encourage people to stay in an hour. We'll have to count at the door, and, they'll be allowed to, come in. What Hoover's seeing, they've been open for a little while, and most people are just coming in, browsing, getting books and leaving, so, we're just going to start opening 4 hours a day starting October the 7th, and then you start adding stuff back as we go from there.
But all of the renovation is complete.
Just about. We're doing the last stuff right now. We're doing punch lists, and it's beautiful. And what we were talking about, I had board meeting yesterday, or Tuesday I had board meeting, and we were talking about doing, once we hope the pandemic, I'm like Robert, I hope in January things are going to start getting back to normal, but once we can start doing things, we want to have just a grand reopening and do it right once we finish. But as soon as everything gets done, we'll be glad for y'all to come up. I'll send you an invitation, and y'all can come up and y'all can walk through it, and we'll show it to you and everything. But we're not able to it's got 25 stations in it, and we're not even able to put all the stations in because we can't have people sitting so close on the computers either. So to do social distance, we're going to have, blank spots where there won't be computers, but eventually there will be.
Okay. Okay, are there any questions on the capital request?
No questions, Mr. Chairman, just eager to see that repaving done.
Yeah.
It's a long time coming.
Yeah, and I had put $180,000 in, and that would probably resurface it, but it's just going to be putting a Band-Aid on it because I started asking to get that parking lot redone in 2009, and I've asked for it numerous times, and then when we started asking for the project, I thought, well, we need the parking lot after the project since they stage it, from the parking lot. But I got a civil engineer to come in, and that parking lot's washed out so many times till it needs drains and stuff put in it, and it needs new packing down, and the handicap spots. I mean, we've had with one of our handicap spots up toward the front, the wheelchairs will roll off will roll away when people are trying to get in their car. So, you know, they need to do some geo work and all that too. So to do it right, that's how much it's going to be. And I'd rather see it done right in the last 20 years than just repaved and start having to patch it again in a few years. So
Okay.
it was originally done in 1996. Yeah.
I remember. That's sad. That's really sad. Oh, goodness gracious. And I remember the Don Hatcher Technology
Yeah,
Center, too.
right,
I
right.
served with Don Hatcher. I don't think we name it that anymore, though. We took
Yeah,
that-
well, it's downstairs, and I don't know if we're going to move that name up or not. The board hadn't made that decision yet.
You think
so-
you love the library, Don Hatcher.
Yeah.
Man, you remind me of him when it
Yeah.
comes to talking about the library.
He was
and that's
absolutely
great.
a champion for us. for
He
sure.
was.
Yeah.
He absolutely was. Okay, and then one other funny story that I heard was that on election day, there was a guy coming up to the library and somebody there said, "Oh, thank you so much for coming to vote." And the guy said, "Vote? I want to go in the library."
Yeah.
And I thought that was
Well,
pretty
you know,
funny.
we've been having 1,500 cars a month coming through there picking up books, and
1,500.
They absolutely love the pickup, and we do it just like Walmart. We have parking spots in the back, and we schedule times, and I mean, they come in there and the staff takes their books out and they're working, getting everything together, and we started doing bonus bags where they can just kind of state what kind of books they like, and the staff gets them all kind of books, and we've just got so many compliments on it. They're really enjoying that service.
Well, you don't have to answer this now, but is your vision to continue that?
My vision is to continue that, and you'll
Okay.
hear more about that. But right now, we're staging it in the back because we can't have cars lined up, you know, going out Oxmoor Road. But I'm working on kind of a plan because I don't think the patrons are going to be happy if it goes away.
Yeah,
Because
once
they
you,
like it, yeah.
once you provide that service, yeah.
Right.
That's great, okay. Okay, well, I don't have any other questions.
Thank you.
We will probably talk a little bit more when we talk about personnel as to, you just have a few people working. I mean, you don't have your normal staff that
Right.
has been, so we need to figure out how we need to budget for the year.
Well, I put enough to budget for the part-time. I put it in the budget, but I'm not going to use it till we start getting them back. But I want it there so that when, you know, I can't see the future either, but whenever this ends and we get to start renting rooms and we're having tons of online programs all the time. In fact, Judith's doing one right now. That's why she's not up here with me. But when we start being able to have programs in the building, we'll be opening again till 9 o'clock, all that. So we'll have to have the part-time people back at some point.
Okay, okay.
Dr. Jones, not to let Debbie foul outdo me, but the city clerk's office did offer drive-through absentee voting this time.
Now, I heard-
ran many of the ballots down and notarized
Yeah.
at the fountain.
I heard
downstairs.
lots of stories about that you would go straight out there and.
Not to let curbside library service be outdone, we've offered curbside absentee voting. If
Well,
you
you know,
would've
the
called me, I would've come down.
Walmart over there is doubled or tripled. I was doing curbside at Walmart, you know, 2 years ago, because I like it, you know, it's easy to do, so I always liked it, but now it seems like everybody's doing it, but.
I have a feeling in 2024, if there's not a pandemic, which I hope not, there's not, I still have to do curbside absentee voting. What you
It's the new normal.
You may have to just not answer your phone. Sorry.
That's right. Okay, well, thank you for all you do.
Okay.
And
thank y'all, we appreciate it. Birmingham Public is going through some really tough times, and their budget's just been sliced, so I'm not sure, I don't know what's going to happen with them, and they're having an emergency board meeting tomorrow. Of course, they're a member of the cooperative, so basically, since it's, you know, we've got the cooperative serving the entire county, the rest of the cooperative's going to be taking up the spot for Birmingham Public, which is going to be tough on all of us, but I'm on the cooperative executive board too, and we've been working on that as well, so.
I've told that story multiple times about the fact the county has so few examples of partnership, but the cooperative is one of the best.
Yeah.
And if we had more of those throughout the county, I think we would, and I know we voted for metro government in the 60s, but it's a great example of partnership with all the libraries.
Yeah, and it's been working well for many years, so we're real
Okay.
proud of it, and I'm sure at some point Birmingham Public will come back, but the future doesn't look very bright right now, so.
Right.
But thank you.
Okay. Okay, Berkeley, you got to come back up. Now we're on page 18, unless we've made those changes on page 17. Okay, Park and Rec. Any questions on that?
Can I ask, I do have a question. It's not an objection, it's just a question. On the creek sediment removal, is that any particular area or?
That's the section down there in Central.
Okay.
We have it, if you notice, it builds up.
Right.
And we had a couple of years that the company that had been doing it didn't do it anymore, and then it got pretty rough. So we do it every year. It's usually in November. They come in and dredge it out. And we've been fortunate, even though we've had a whole lot of rain this year, we've basically gotten back to where it's not as bad as it was. But if you go out there now, there's a sandbar that's formed, and that's usually, it's just one of those yearly things, and then they clean out what we call the bowl, which is around there. So, but the bowl actually this year has probably got less sediment than I've seen it in probably a good 8 years, so.
Okay, I just was trying to verify whether it was just one area or several.
Yes, it's just that one there at Central Park. We start basically from, they start from back there on Park Ridge and come all the way through, until the rig gets there at the bowl, So it usually takes them about 2 weeks to get everything done.
Okay, thank you.
I noticed here, Berkeley, that 72-inch slope mower.
Yes.
It's $54,000, and
Yeah.
Chief Ross is getting a car for $45,000. I'm just trying to figure out what the heck that thing's got in it.
Well,
Is it gold-plated?
We've got the old one we got is we bought back in 2000, but this one now actually with the hydraulics, if you know where 6 acres field is,
Sure.
it'll mow that whole thing. Like right now, we have to weed eat it or push mow it.
Is it robotic?
Yeah, it rolls with it, and the decks it's got 2 decks on it and they float.
Sure.
And you can, they come out and demonstrated back in February with it, and you can go when it's raining. One of the areas we're excited about using it on is you can fold up one of the sides, and in the middle of Lakeshore, basically starting at Lakeshore and Green Springs, the middle right there where the drainage things are. If you notice, we'll mow, and then it may be a week before the weed eaters catch up to it. Well, this one can go behind the zero turns because it'll mow those ditches, so we won't have to come along. There'll be certain little areas we'll have to weed eat, but it'll actually stay with them and mow.
Is it the kind that has an arm that drops down?
No, it's actually if you remember the old-timey days, it's almost like sitting on a motorcycle, a little Honda 50 type body, and it's got 2 wide tires, and they're not wings, but they go together, but the balance of it is a hydraulic system that's, you see we don't have any equipment like that, but it's what they call floating, and it goes as the ground slope, and it can go up to 36 degrees.
Wow.
Can it fly?
No, ain't got there yet, but it's just, we've got an older one that, it doesn't, it's a slope mower, but it's not, a lot of areas, we can go halfway up the hillside of the mega field, and then we have to come off because it'll slide off. So, but it'll replace it. I think we got it in like 2000 or 2001, so it's replacing it,
Okay.
But we buy all those things are off the cooperative bid list. Everything comes off that bid list.
And the lights are working great at all the facilities. That has been such an improvement.
Yeah,
From 4 years ago?
Yeah, from 2014 to now. Yeah, we've got 2 really right now that are luckily with the COVID that we, because they're broke and they're not coming back, so.
Right.
Well, your truck's a little cheaper in Parks and Recreation than in.
Yeah, they're cheaper than Tim's stuff. He buys that high dollar stuff. I just get the old standard stuff, you know.
All right. Well,
All
so,
right.
the request is pretty level to this year. So
Yeah,
that's what I had
yeah.
requested from
Yes.
almost all department heads, so you cut a lot, so.
Yeah, you're actually about $3,000 under.
We'll
Okay,
survive. Thank y'all.
okay. Moving on to fleet maintenance. Any questions on fleet maintenance? Replacing a 2000 GMC shop truck.
No, he gave that
Oh,
up.
that, we took that out, that's right.
Yeah. He's just got the natural gas heaters, the gate openers, and the lift truck repair, which replaced what she said he had to have.
Okay. That's a very tight budget, Gordon has. All right. Moving on to page 20, traffic light maintenance. Very tight budget. Is Randy here?
No, sir.
Okay.
I can speak to it though if you need me to. He was asked to come in at level funding or under, and I believe he did on all
Yeah,
of his.
he's,
He went below.
Way below.
Yeah.
But he had some vehicles in 1920 that's what bumped his up by 115,000.
Okay. I guess my only question is, are there any large projects or repairs that we need to make in terms of synchronizing lights? I continue to get
He has
really
he has some equipment in his capital request and his 7 cents tax request that will handle some of that. It's my understanding, and just reading through his things, that he is working on that with some of these requests.
Because the lights on Oxmoor still are not synchronized. I mean, they were before we did that paving, and then the utilities came out, and I don't think they're synchronized at the park. I mean, I wish we could fix that, and I just want to make sure that we can. If it needs a controller, or I don't know what the issue is with some of the streets.
I will talk with him about that, but I know that he has some requests in here
For
to
controller
upgrade
upgrades.
controllers and some of the electronics to do with the lights and traffic signals. So
Okay.
either in his capital request or his 7 cents tax request. So
Okay.
I'll cover that with him and make sure that he's aware of that need.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Page 22. We're nearing the end here for capital. IT.
Yeah, I mean,
Court
down
computers.
a third of what he did last year, so that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
He's below
So where's that
17, 18,
security
19,
camera? Is that,
20.
I'm not sure where,
He's asking us to add one camera, there's a blind spot in the entrance of the city hall.
oh, okay, blind spot, okay. Okay. All right, I don't have any other questions on that. That looks good. Okay, and then Finance Department, those troublemakers.
The computer equipment, the $99,000, that's a PO roll from current year for the version 10 upgrade.
That's an Encode. And does that move us to the cloud?
That'll be version 10 and go to the cloud.
And I used that software on my brief vacation to the city of, not vacation, but journey to the city of Trussville. And it has so much more functionality as far as reporting than the version 9. It's basically like a whole new system, which is why they charge for it as opposed to giving us just an update.
And have we gotten, the only question I had was, have we gotten the remote access worked out to where either one of you, if you were at home and you were not able to get into City Hall?
Yeah, we both have, it's called Go to My PC. I can run work remotely. Yes.
Okay.
We got that fixed during the first of the pandemic when we thought we might have to.
Okay, I remember that. So we have a VPN for that? Do you go into the VPN?
Basically, it's just an internet connection from my laptop to my desktop.
Okay. So you're just using.
I stay out of the actual workings inside the system. James doesn't like people getting into the system, so it's basically just a link to my desktop.
Got it. Okay. All right. Any other questions on finance? Okay. There's our total, so we finished that. Okay. Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Before we moved on to a whole new section, I wanted to ask if we could, I'd mentioned to you before the meeting, there was something that we needed to address back in the non-departmental. Andrew is online, I think. Andrew Counselor Wolverton, I'll let him explain the numbers and things, because he's the one.
On page 8 on that tab.
Yeah, page 8, tab 3.
Page 8, tab 3.
He's on Zoom, so I assume,
All right, Brian, turn him up so we can hear him.
Can let him speak. I just thought we should go ahead and knock it out before we go to a whole new, well, it's not even in this section, before we go to another section.
So tab 3, page 8.
Yeah.
Mr.
Sorry, Andrew, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, Councilor Jones, so the WHNA line item, that there was some discrepancy about what was needed, what wasn't. I did speak to somebody within the WHNA that indicated that they could certainly take a cut in funding. Their events didn't happen. I know Berkeley had mentioned Back to School Bash, I believe, which is in conjunction with the WHNA. It's Parks and Rec, but it's also in conjunction with them. But they paid up front for that, so the equipment rental and stuff, when we can hopefully resume those events, is already paid for and will be covered. My understanding is the spring event was canceled, Street Fest was canceled, and that's an independent event that they put on. So he did say that they have money in the bank because they didn't spend there. He was hoping that they could stay in the budget, and gave me an estimate of $2,500. And they mentioned a mural project that they were wanting to fund, and a couple other things throughout the year that have kind of come up that they've tried to help support in the neighborhood. But I just wanted to bring that up, since there had been some discrepancy on that.
Okay. I was hoping you were bringing us good news. That's okay.
It's relatively small.
Okay, so we're talking about, I'm gonna have to get my paper here to
Magnifying
look at
glass.
these. Okay, so line item 11-575130.
And it's currently zeroed out because y'all made a
Currently
motion on the last time. to take
zeroed
that
out.
$8,000
So we moved 4-0 to zero that out. And what Mr. Wolverton is saying is that they still need to budget $2,500. Is that what everybody heard?
That's what I'm saying.
So what is the thought?
Hey, why don't you just let me cover that with them? I don't know. This year.
Well,
I can't hear if anybody's talking.
Mr. Wolverton, Mr. Squires just said that he would be willing to cover that $2,500 out of his budget rather than us adding anything back into non-departmental. You think that'll be satisfactory to, would be to me, 2,500, 2,500?
we appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean,
Mr. Squires, we appreciate it.
$2,500 is $2,500. I don't know that they care specifically where it comes from, so.
Okay, well, we'll just, I would suggest we just leave it where it is then, and if, Andrew, if you can just make them aware of what the decision was and how that's going to work, that'd be great. And thank you, Mr. Squires, for being willing to step
Tell them to
up.
write him a thank you note.
Help out with that.
Hey, Dr. Jones, before we leave the general fund,
Sure.
this is actually good news.
Thank you.
A little bit.
You're welcome.
On page 30, Gordon, he's not nearly as easy to deal with when he's not on anesthesia from doing surgery, but, like he was the other day when I called him, but he did, y'all had asked about the tuition in schools. And he bumped it up because he thought that there may be some people that, his mechanics that go for the ASC certification. But he said that he's comfortable taking it back down to 3. He doesn't think that he'll need to use that 400, but I told him I'd give the caveat that if he did, he could come back to y'all because he gave up the $400.
Take it from 3,400 to 30,000?
To make it 3,000 level.
Okay, all right, I would need to change that line item from 3,400 to 3,000.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Smith.
Second.
Second by Mr. Harden. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed by the same sign.
Is that still 5-0?
5-0.
Okay.
Okay, and I need to write down the date that we, when was it?
This is 17.
Okay.
He
Okay,
still-
now.
He still said he wouldn't get an email address.
Yeah, I know, I know. Okay. Okay.
I told him we were laughing at him, not with me, with him, not at him.
All right. Let's go, let's start talking about personnel and
Do you want to do this?
how we want, and let's try to stay high level to start with. The current budget, well, I'm just behind tab 1. I'm behind tab 1 just to kind of get a kind of a plan.
And Dr. Jones, before we get into it, can we take a short break after you segue? Because I need to go get 2 sheets related to payroll.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break then. Okay, we're gonna come back to order. And as we were kind of talking about now going into personnel, I want to make this as easy as we can. I know we have a lot of big decisions to make this year for the budget, but look, why don't we recap from a high level? You know, I like high level, right, Melody?
Yes, sir. High-level overview. Got it.
From a personnel standpoint, it should be fairly straightforward. If you go behind tab 1, and that's really a recap of what we're looking at. Unfortunately, it does not include a COLA. But would like council to consider funding at some point. We don't know if that's after mid-year review, but we need to talk about that. Total budgeted positions for the new year of 374 full-time, including 1 appointed, 178 part-time, 12 elected, for a total of 564.
That's Mr. Bischoff that's appointed, and those are you and the mayor, all of y'all and the mayor that are the elected.
That's right. And I want you to look at that number,
Was it 4? It's 40.
because our city is unique in that the services that we provide, as we were talking to Mr. Squires
Is
about,
it 20? Okay.
I mean, backyard trash pickup and all the services that we provide. Other cities do not have the services that we have. They don't have the fire rating, they don't have, they basically don't have that number of employees. I believe Vestavia has like 200 and something employees, because they outsource just about everything, including trash pickup. So these discussions about how we're approaching the budget are the most important, really, because the labor dollars make up such a large percentage of our budget. But as has been mentioned earlier tonight, that's what makes our city great, are the employees of the city who work so tirelessly for all of our city. So I want to also point out that, you know, every year when employees are available for merit increases, those are part of this budget. That totals $280,202 before taxes and pension, and then after taxes, it's $345,000 that we are budgeting. And again, it goes back to the number of employees we have. There was Robert, can you go over the insurance increase with us a little bit, talk about that?
Yes, we're projecting, based on information that we received from this guy, a 5% increase in our health insurance premiums. That's provided we keep a preferred rate. We have 21 employees now that are on our retiree health insurance. We're required by SIB to have 5% participation. If we lose one employee off of our current list, we will go back to a standard rate, and that will cost us $330,000 a year in additional premium. So it is important that we look at some way to benefit the retirees and the employees close to retirement to encourage them to stay participating in our health insurance.
Did you say we only have 5% of the employees that are on?
We're required.
That's your
to have
requirement.
5%, and now we have one employee over that 5% mark. If we lose one employee off our retiree list, now this is an annual, so we're good for the current year. But in the next year, if we do not have a 5% participation, we will revert to a standard rate, and it will cost us approximately $330,000 in insurance premiums.
And that is opposed to what do we assume the cost would be to try to do something to encourage those?
Correct. Try to give some type of incentive. We have several ideas that might help.
Yeah. But I assume we're nowhere near $330,000.
Correct. I mean, if we just say, if we were to give, these 21 employees, a stipend of $200, $400 just to encourage them to stay and offer that to any additional retiree, that's some type of incentive. Then there's other ideas. We fund our retirees' insurance at the cost of their insurance at the time that they left. We could bring all that up to a standard rate across the board of what we're currently contributing to the employees. There's different options, but I think it's important that we do something to encourage our employees to stay on the plan. And also, another side of this, if we offer a better retiree insurance premium, we have a lot of people that would look at retiring in this. There are a lot of people here that are just here for the health
Sure,
care.
they may decide to retire
Right.
based on the benefit of that.
That's providing a better benefit to them, that's correct. That's a big idea, because whatever we would give them, that's going to be an employee that's topped out. We'll bring an employee back in at the bottom of the scale to, 2, 3, or 4, so it would be offset.
And and one thing too, like when you're actively working here, we have two rates only. We have a family and a single. That's a certain dollar amount. We don't have employee plus one. But when you retire, even if you're qualified to stay on our plan, that rate goes up as a retiree. That's one of the cost prohibitive reasons why people are declining the insurance when they retire, especially if they are able to get another job somewhere. But even if they're not, to try to find something else, because you don't keep the same rate. We'll go through the rates, what we pay now per employee for family and single, but the retirees have a whole different rate.
Like our family covers, the family covers for retiree employees, $1,883 a month, which is $800 higher than what the city pays for employees.
So 1,000 is what a typical employee pays.
Yes.
Well, right now for family, it's where the city's charged $1,206, and the employee pays $375 a month, and the city pays $831. But see, so if you retire and you go up to $1,800, you're only going to, and you get the window, what we call the window. You get the city's. Not everybody gets the city. You have to meet certain requirements, but the city would only paid the $831, so you're gonna go from $375 a month to $1,000 a month. And a lot of them say that that's going to be almost their pension or whatever.
Right, that
Right.
basically is a wash with what the money that they'd be getting from there.
When they turn 65, they'll go on Medicare, so they come off of our, if they turn 65, they come off.
They stay on our insurance.
If they want to, they don't have to.
but
I mean, I'm talking about the
city does not-
5%.
At that point, the city makes no contribution, even once they're on that Medicare, Medicaid. We don't make any contribution at that point, once they go on.
And they don't have to stay on it Medicare eligible, they can choose to
This is a
stay on.
supplement
I'm just talking about trying to keep the 5%. Does that help us if they stay on it?
Yes, it does. They're calculated in that 5%.
And, you know, Robert and I've talked about this for years. We can't understand, I guess, there's not understand a lot. I mean, when we signed on the SCIB, it's a self-funded pool. You know, it's administered by Blue Cross, but it's actually a self-funded pool. I can't understand the logic of why they want 5% of retirees. Because typically they're a greater consumer of health care, so I'm just trying to rationalize it unless it's because the premiums are higher.
I think that's what it is.
But
They're offsetting, they're taking the risk of offsetting the cost that it might be more expensive to cover them because of the raised premium.
But there are, and I'm not proponing this at all, but there are some cities that have had to not offer the retirees to stay on, like that's an option, SEIB. I'm not saying that that's what we want y'all to do, but because a lot of cities have lost their preferred rating because of the 5%. So that's a very, that's a hard goal for a lot of cities to